Hey guys, welcome to the Green Sofa. It's Seneca, and today I am joined by my boy Rob J.
Hey, what's up? Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so we've been having a lot of dialogue lately about the whole JayZ, Roger Goodell thing, the commissioner with the NFL.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? I've been hearing so many things, and I've got a lot of mixed feelings about it, but what do you think?
It's one of the rare debates where I can understand both sides of it.
Okay.
I feel like he does deserve, a little bit. I feel like anybody on a plan deserves a little bit of time to see what the plan is.
Okay.
The optics probably weren't the greatest. But my father, he presented a really great argument today where he was like, hey, if it was your job that, something happened at, and, everybody was protesting for you, and then I came back, a year later, and, now I'm, on the board there, how would you feel? And I was like, hey, I felt where he came from.
Okay.
Marcellus Wiley's scathing takedown, I felt like had some merit to it, but it's just an interesting debate that really almost all sides have some level of validity in their position.
I'd be interested in knowing what Kaepernick thinks about it, because he said he had a conversation with Kaepernick, but of course in that interview he was like, I'll never disclose what we talked about, right? So I don't know if that was good or bad.
Well, and I think that's the tricky part with Kaepernick is because he never talks. So it's like, it's kind of hard to, I believe, what Kaepernick did and the sacrifice he made is undeniable.
Absolutely.
But when you're at the forefront of something and you don't talk, it kind of gets like we don't. Obviously he uses social media.
Yeah.
And I know he has some close-knit circle, and a lot of them are in radio, and they do relay some messages, but it just seems like I feel like if we heard directly from the source a little more often, it would make it a little bit easier to know what the plan is, past his direct involvement in his dollar.
So JayZ has been catching a lot of heat about it, like people calling him a sellout, and I have a lot of respect for JayZ and Beyonce, and I believe JayZ is a brilliant businessman. I mean, obviously he became a billionaire this year, right? So he's doing something right, and not only that, but he's a very calculated individual, right? So I think it's more to the story than what we are seeing and hearing. Right, and I believe, like you believe, like we need to just kind of wait and see how the story unfolds, because I feel like there's more to it.
Yeah, most definitely.
And I know it was like his people behind the scenes, basically, how this whole interview came to light. But I feel like it's way more to it than we know it to be. Definitely.
I think, one of the mottos that me and my guys have just in life in general is like, let the play develop.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, when we jump to conclusions or, lose composure and just jump to emotion, then you could kind of spoil something that, if you just kind of sat in the pocket a little longer, you might have seen some openings that we just don't see right now. So
do you think it's hurting the movement, right? Like this whole movement around, police brutality and the social injustice, what we're seeing with black men who are being killed every day, right? Is this going to help? Of course, JayZ was like, listen, if this conversation is about me performing at the Super Bowl, y'all can forget it. We just gonna go ahead and end the interview now. But if this is about us coming to some kind of resolution, right? Whatever that resolution is, we really don't know yet. Because I'm still confused as to what is going to happen. But I believe in Jay, and I believe whatever it is, it's very calculated and it's going to be in everybody's best interest.
Yeah, I think I can't say that it's bad for anything, because I don't see how anybody taking action can be bad for something. I mean, if me or you tomorrow decided, hey, we're gonna meet with, HPD once a week and discuss issues going on, how can that be bad? I don't think anyone taking a step can hurt anybody. I think, the betrayal feeling I think people may feel betrayed a little bit, but I don't see how anything bad can come of it. With the exception of, people thinking that the issue doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I don't think he's out to do, is to remove, the idea or promote the idea that these things have been solved. So
I think one of the best arguments he was making was like, okay, we done kneeling. It's time for action.
Yeah. You know why he's kneeling? Do you know why he's kneeling?
I know when I saw that, I was like, all right, Jay, we get the point. But I mean, really, like, there was one other individual who asked the question during that whole interview, and he was just like, okay, so since we're doing this now, like, does it mean that people can't peacefully protest? And I feel like Roger Goodell was kind of skirting around that answer, right? Nobody was giving a really specific answer. It was kind of like, you know, whether they did or didn't. But I'm like, yeah, do you feel like this whole movement is now saying, yeah, well, y'all protested, you know, and now we done away with that. Now, I do believe we need to kick into more action, right?
Yeah.
I feel like the best way to hit people is in the pockets.
Yeah, but I mean, they put up $100 million. The players, I think it's called the Players Union or the Players, whatever their social groups led by Malcolm Jenkins. I mean, I don't know specifics on it, but from what I've heard loosely, they have achieved some things. So, you know, we're playing a game that requires us to, you know, at least be open to. I mean, what we're asking for, we have to have room and allowance for them to actually act on and do. We can't just deny or we can't say that we want awareness about something, and then when people act aware about it, you know, turn our nose up to them and be like, oh well, you know, it's not. You know, that's kind of a dangerous area that we're playing in. You know, one thing that I think is kind of a strange gray area is I believe I think his name's Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, who had to remove himself from I think the Players Union because he was a Trump supporter.
Oh wow!
But see, here's the dangerous game that we're playing again.
Okay.
You know, is being a Trump supporter mean that you can't support social, you know, justice? And that part I think is opening up a door that, you know, is going to be a dangerous door when the tide turns and we have someone that we support. Okay. And you know, whether it be a, you know, I don't know, a Farrakhan, you know, that type of person where, okay, am I not going to be allowed to participate in something for, you know, potential good because I've supported, you know, somebody who has said things that may be considered anti-Semitic, you know, so we're opening up a real, like, you know, slippery slope. And that's why I think the best thing is just kind of the slow pace and letting the play develop and just seeing what happens. And then if they blow it, then hey, we could say, hey, y'all blew it, or that wasn't real, or you said you were going to do this and didn't do it. But just jumping out there like that, and you know, anybody who disagrees with us or doesn't see it exactly how we see it is wrong. I think we're playing. That's a dangerous approach, you know. In my opinion. You know?
Why not start our own NFL?
Oh, well, I don't think that's really, you know.
I mean, I hear that all the time. Like, why not? I mean, if black guys are the majority of NFL players and they're feeling like they're being discriminated against or whatever the case may be, like, why not just start our own football league?
I mean, there's a lot of logistics and things that go. I mean, if that's somebody's vision, you know, if somebody wants to invest, you know, 10 years of groundwork and securing these contracts and all this, I mean, you know, I don't know that like that. I don't know. I mean, you know, Vince McMahon started XFL. I want to watch the NFL, and if I was playing sports, I want to play in the NFL. I don't want to play in, you know, the Negro Football League, you know, and that might sound coonish or whatever, but I mean that's just fact. Like, you know, you know, but I mean, I think down the road, I mean, it's possible, but you know,
because I'm thinking about ownership, right? Because when I think about just HBCUs alone, right, you have so many HBCUs that were for a long period of time were really struggling. Now, I mean, we still have a lot that are struggling, right? But if you take, you know, all of these top athletes who go to these top schools, like your A&Ms and you know, whatever, Syracuse and Duke and, you know, all these Miami, all these top places where guys go for football. If you took all of them and placed them in HBCUs, I mean, just think about the exponential growth in terms of money that will be coming to HBCUs.
No, listen, they I saw a meme one time that said Apple sends that Amber Alert like you gonna hop in a Batmobile and go save somebody or something.
Okay, always.
But no, the thing. Let me ask you this: as far as when it comes to the HBC, because I've heard that argument before.
Yeah.
All right, you're a mother. You have a son. Your son is Zion Williamson, right? Your son is #1 ranked player.
Okay.
And your son has a chance to go to Duke, which is a traditional powerhouse, which has taken kids with his talent and converted that into NBA careers, millions of dollars, et cetera, or you're a Tuskegee alum, you could send your son Zion to Tuskegee, which has never had a player of his talent in this generation, not counting, when we were segregated. But in this era, the modern era, has never had a player of this caliber, does not have the resources, does not have the exposure, does not have...
No, we've had a couple of guys go. We've had Frank Walker and Roosevelt Williams and a couple of dudes who then went to the league and had some very,
the NBA, y'all have had a McDonald's All-American. Y'all have had a Zion type talent. You haven't.
I don't know about that. But I'm just saying, we've had some guys who went to the league.
I'm not slouching Tuskegee. Shout out to all the HBUs, FAMU in the building. But I'm saying, like, with all that said, like, would you put up your 17-year-old child to be the, almost like sacrificial experimental lamb of sorts to see if he can try this new model when there's this proven model already there that if he goes to Duke, what the end result most likely will be? That's a tough task to put on an 18-year-old. Yeah,
I mean, ultimately it's his decision, but at one point do we say, listen, we don't have to deal with this. We can start our own. We can do our own thing. We don't have to, and somebody's going to have to be the sacrificial lamb. I feel like, there's going to have to be this regime of individuals who are going to have to make that sacrifice.
I'm going to tell you
for the greater good of everybody.
This how that talk would go if it was little Robert Mayberry the 5th. This talk would go just like this.
Okay.
Son, you have a brilliant revolutionary spirit that can bring a lot of change.
Okay.
And I am proud to be your father. So this is what we're gonna do. You're gonna go take an official visit to FAMU, and I want you to enjoy every moment of it. And when you get back home, your black ass is signing with Duke. That'll be
period.
Yeah, that would be that talk, because it's just it's hard to ask kids. The sacrifice, and I'm not anti-sacrifice because we have always grown as a people because of people who have sacrificed. Even with Kaepernick, sacrificing his career.
Yeah.
But absolutely. I just think, we speak of it so freely as if, there's no cost. And
it's a lot of cost.
Yeah, and that's a big cost. I
always tell people you got to count the cost when it talks, when you think about situations like that, you always have to count the cost. But I think it'll be worth it for the greater good in the long run. But anyway, so I wanted to talk about this whole masculinity thing that you were talking about. Now, what is it exactly? You're starting this whole movement.
Oh yeah, well,
people want to know.
It's called masculinity awareness, and basically what it is men being aware of starting with just what masculinity is. Like I pick a subject every like year or two, and that's like my main kind of focus of reading, almost like having a major. So my focus this year was like manhood, just really working on the man. Okay. So and that kind of led into masculinity, and then that opened a door of me realizing how little that I actually knew about just the simple thing. Like, if you would have asked me January 1st, what is a man? I probably couldn't answer that question with a definitive, 10-second answer. Okay. So that kind of led me down to study, and through study, started out with reading books a lot more like kind of relationship based, where it's like The Rational Male, some like, seduction type of things, where it was more about that. But then as I took a deeper dive into it, and it just became about manhood, and, I read like The Way of the Superior Man, I started realizing like that men are not really exposed to this information. And we don't really have a practice of actually working on manhood. Like we don't actually study masculine energy and study feminine energy. Like women actually practice womanhood. It's actually a practice. We don't really have a practice of manhood. So I just started, posting things that I just started calling like masculinity awareness. Okay. And then from there we started having little meetups. And like originally these meetups were about, it was really about just dating women and stuff like that, and we would call them Bible study. You know.
How you go from we talking about dating women to it's a Bible study?
But that's what it was called, Bible study, the gospel of game.
The gospel of game.
So we would just like, we would have these meetups, and and the crazy thing about it though is the conversation would start in dealing with an issue with women.
Okay.
And inevitably, within 20 to 30 minutes, the conversation will wind up and park at how do we become better men? You know,
I like that.
And no matter where we started, it always came back to that.
Yeah.
So and then so we started kind of learning certain principles about manhood isn't conditional. You know, if it comes out of my mouth, it has to happen because I said so.
Okay.
You know, a man, the greatest definition of a man is the truth, and the highest expression of a man is a man that does what he says. You know, like just started learning like these principles and this foundation of like what it meant, and a lot of it came from reading and from retired pimps. You know, like
Don Juan, who we talking about?
Well, I wound up developing a personal friendship with Rosebud Bitterdose, who's an American pimp, and Rosebud. I mean, yeah, it's funny, but like Rosebud actually spearheaded a lot of my growth. And the thing about it, I became a real close follower of Andre Taylor, who now he's a real a strict follower of his faith. Okay. I believe he's a Hebrew Israelite, but I mean, he's really about his faith. He's done some really great social justice work, but he's primarily known from American Pimp as well. Okay. His name back in his previous life was Gorgeous Dre, and and he said some lines in American Pimp that a lot of people really cling to as far as you got to be a man first. Before you're a pimp, before you're this, before you're that, you got to be a man first. Okay. So a lot of people just clung to that and clung to his teachings, but Gorgeous Dre shared a lot of things that actually I had never really heard somebody so eloquently explain manhood in that type of way. You know, another one, Sinful to P. You know,
I've never heard of these people.
So like Sinful to P also, who actually I adopted my definition of a man from a lot of his teachings, and I don't know if I'm allowed to like curse on here, but well, Sinful to P famously said, treat your penis like a birthday, treat your penis like a holiday, so you can live every day like it's your birthday. And really brought home that you can't make the pursuit of your inserting your penis into women your number one priority. And if that's and this came from a pimp. This came from people who gentlemen of leisure who are retired from the lifestyle. Okay. But what he really expressed is like, I'm not out to come, I'm out to come up. And and it started bars. So he just started bringing in these different teachings, and a lot of them are based in just principles of masculinity, and being taking ownership of who you are as a man, and from there, a lot of these isms that they would share will actually become like things that were life changing to me. Like Rosebud said something that it took me 2 months to understand what he was talking about, because we started developing like a phone relationship where I would call Rosebud, talk to him about life, and one time he told me, he said, we talking about like going out. And I think there was like a young lady who I thought was like really hot, and I was really cool with, and I was like, hey, we're friends, but like, hey, bud, if I wanted to do this, like, what if I didn't want to just be friends with her? What if I wanted to approach her like that? Okay. And Bud said, you gonna approach her? How you out trying to catch a broad, and your socks don't match, your car ain't detailed, and your crib ain't immaculate? And I was like, Bud, like, I understand what you're saying, but like, what do my socks have to do? I was just telling this young lady, I was at the lounge, and he's like, what do your socks have to do? Everything. I could tell you ain't got no game. And and the crazy thing about it was, he wasn't talking about my crib, my socks, and my car.
This was all a metaphor.
Yeah. So basically, the metaphor, the game was, how are you worried about an exterior gain when you have not taken care of you haven't done the inner work. Okay. So instead of you being worried about, this woman, you should be worried about like your health, your wellness, your fitness, your readings, your strengthening of yourself. Okay. So why are you worried about coming up there when you haven't put the energy into coming up here? That was the the socks are unseen.
Revelation.
The car is unseen. The crib is unseen. All of these things are unseen when I'm out. If I'm out and I just meet you, you don't see my socks, you don't see my crib, you don't see my car. All of these things are way more important than what you see in front of you, though.
Right.
So that was kind of like the type of principles and type of things that I've learned from just being exposed to the pimping.
Okay. Yeah. Don't be sorry. Hope be careful.
Yeah. So,
that's my favorite line.
Oh yeah.
So you mentioned spirituality, and I remember you saying at one point that when it comes to spirituality, you actually prefer the feminine energy.
Well, yeah.
What does that mean?
So, what I learned from like the way of the superior man is the fact that like we operate, even as men, we're not 100% masculine. And actually a lot of things that we credit as being tough is actually is really feminine energy. Okay. A guy who, you bump into him or, gets mad and, and I blow up, I'll do this. You're really acting from emotion. You're really not in
your place. Which is a feminine energy.
Yeah, so you're really operating. Okay. So I'm not saying violence is feminine energy, but I'm saying operating purely in emotion, operating purely in wanting, not being able to say with logic and reason, how you feel about something to another man. Okay. That's operating in feminine energy. And I realized that also, like in masculine energy, there's a relationship that most men have with the energy itself. If you haven't grown up, in a situation where you've been around masculine men, you're gonna naturally have a problem with masculine energy. That's why a lot of men have a problem with authority. They don't really have a problem with authority. They have a problem with the man presiding over them or masculine energy being above them because they haven't really acclimated themselves or ever submitted themselves to masculine energy. So I had to learn about that, and I had to learn about feminine energy. And I had to learn for myself, when am I operating from my feminine side versus my masculine side, and what do I prefer? For me, like spiritually, like I was telling you, at the church I attend, the Awakenings movement, there's a woman who's a pastor, and then also like a lot of the affirmations Louise Hay. I prefer feminine energy sometimes when it comes to spiritual and healing work. Because to me it feels a lot more comforting, versus like the
nature versus nurture and all that.
Yeah, exactly. So in those type of positions, like I prefer feminine energy. I prefer to approach it from that place. Yeah. Not to say like I'm against a male spiritual leader or anything like that, but I just have paid attention to different areas of my life, and now kind of seeing the different energies and the different ways, and I realized that like, okay, well, a lot of the problems that I had with women was I was expecting women to communicate like men, and I didn't even realize that like feminine energy communicates differently.
Very much so.
And like
we speak two different languages.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of issues that I had in the past was, trying to hold women accountable to masculine energy communication when they were speaking, something totally different. And I noticed now, like, okay, sometimes when a woman says A and C, she's saying that so you can fill in B and understand what the message was. Yeah. But I'm from the school of thought, you said AC. What you mean? It was A and it was C. We said AC. What's the problem? And so it's like,
she's like, but I meant B.
Yeah. So
yeah, like, I get it.
So that really,
So when you talk about that balance between masculine and feminine energy, I automatically start thinking about your boy Toby. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like he does that really well in his music. Like, Toby and Wingway, I mean, him and Fat, like, yeah, I just adore them now. Like, I've been listening to his music. It's incredible. Yeah. It's absolutely incredible. And I feel like he does that well, that nice vibe, that balance between masculine and feminine, and he has an incredible message.
Yeah, he does. And he's actually very masculine. Like, he's actually a very, he's actually see, People had this.
I definitely think he's an alpha male.
Yeah, that was what I was about to say. Like, people had
alpha.
this fantasy in their head that this alpha is this big Suge Knight bully. Like, nah, that's like Toby is like actually very alpha. Like when Steph Curry's wife said that thing about, you know, sometimes missing the attention of that, and then Steph Curry came back the next day like unbothered, like that was alpha. That wasn't soft. That was out. Like that was like, yo,
amen.
That was an alpha male move right there.
Yes,
you know,
it
like
was.
the fact that, like, you know, I'm not easily bothered, you know, by these type of things. You know, I'm like that. You know, I'm that rod. You know, that rock that, you know, is a foundation. So I feel like Toby is a great blueprint for like something for men to aspire to, because he just planted his flag and stood on what he believed unapologetically.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I had a chance to interview him. He was on the second ever episode of my podcast.
Okay. Was
him, and he just was very, very locked into his purpose.
Okay.
Which was going back to the masculinity thing. Mm-hmm. One of the key tenets of this whole thing is like finding your purpose.
Yeah.
So he found his purpose and he locked in on it, and he was really unapologetic in his commitment to what it is he stood for. I've learned a lot from him. He's been like even though we're not like close friends personally, we have so many shared friends. His trainer is we go to the same gym. His DJ is one of my best friends. So we have a lot of shared friends.
Okay, yeah.
And, you know, it's almost like, you know, it's almost like going to a boxing gym, and you box at a gym your whole life and you see a champ come out of that gym. You're like, damn, okay, I got a chance to see a champ.
Right.
You know, so it's a lot, you know. And the blessing, you know, just the trickle down from one person being supremely blessed reaches a lot of other people. Now,
it does.
I can be a witness to that.
And you got to tell the story about Toby, because when you talk about, you know, just him really walking in purpose, right? And him being so like adamant and focused and not being deterred from what he believes, you know, he should be doing right now.
Yeah, all right, I'm gonna tell.
I gotta hear that story.
All right, this might, all right, well, I'll just go ahead and give you a green sofa exclusive. I told you it's offline, but it's all good.
I know, we're bringing it right to the green sofa.
Yeah, so like early on after my podcast, and, you know, I think this is when it was just like Get Twisted Sundays.
Okay. What is Get Twisted Sundays?
It was like a hashtag where every Sunday he would rap and he would be like on the sofa. Him and his wife. Well, at that time, him and his
fiance, I believe she was.
Yeah, and he would just rap. He would just slaughter beats.
Okay.
So, you know, after my podcast that I had with him, I went to the university, and I was like, hey, man, I had this guy on my podcast. I think he'd be great for students. So the university was like, okay, went to some student activities. Like, okay, cool. You can book him. We have $1,000. And I was like, okay, cool. Hit him up, $1,000. You know, he said, nah, I can't do nothing for that, you know, the whole nine. Now, this is pre-tour. This is pre-anything but him just on the couch, you know, just doing his raps on Sundays. So, went back, you know, talked to some more people. Mm-hmm. Now, got $6,000 now.
Okay.
Now, so, call him back. I call him like I'm Steve Stout. Because I call him like, hey, yeah, man, the money good, man. You know, I got 6 for you, you know. 20 minutes, that's all we need, you know. I'll work out the date. You know, I call him like I just, you know,
like you the godfather up in this, right?
I called him like I'm Rich Paul or something. I done secured the whole deal.
Tony Montana.
And he was like, nah, I can't. Yeah, I can't do that now. And I'm like, you can't do that. So I became enraged. Like, what you mean you can't do 6? Man, who was you to turn on this? And I was like, man, I just thought you was like the biggest, like, I was just like, see, that's what's wrong with Houston right now. You know, man, they don't do this, nothing. Like, I became enraged. You know, I'm like, man, you know, the audacity of you to turn down this $6,000 that I secured, you know, to form. Mm-hmm. But his vision was something way bigger. And then when I realized once he started touring, and I started seeing like, oh wow, you know. My vision for him was to be happy that I got him some money to come rap on campus for 20 minutes and take this check and make me feel validated and feel like, yeah, I'm doing it because, yeah, I got you this check, and I get to get a chance to say like, hey, yeah, I was a part of your thing, you know, because I did this and I remember this. But his vision for himself was something like that was so much higher. So his vision for himself, and he pledged allegiance to his vision for himself. What a lot of people do is they have a vision for themselves up here, but they still say yes to stuff down here.
Yeah.
And I learned from Toby, it's weird because normally you hear about stuff about when you're the person who's the noble person, you know. They hypnotized with hatred. You the one who being hated on, but I got a chance to be the one hypnotized with the hatred. I was like, you know, and I got a chance to see like, wow, when you set a vision for yourself and somebody approaches you with a vision that they have for you, that's less than what you see for yourself, and you deny it, they become enraged. They become mad. They become angered. They become because you know, and because that's what I became. You know, I got mad as if he had stole his $6,000 from me. You know, but it was really just him in his greatness and him staying true. I struggle with that. I'm a web developer. I work on enterprise websites.
Okay.
You know, at my job, we have a website that, you know, website costs over $100,000 to make. You know, we have copywriters, photographers. I have a whole help desk team that I oversee.
Yeah.
You know, programmers, a budget to bring in other talent if needed. But I struggle to say no to these $700, $500 side gigs.
Okay.
And even though I know my vision, even as I came up, it was hard for me to pledge allegiance to like, hey, this is the standard that I work at now.
Yeah.
You know, I build 5-figure websites, but I said yes to a lot of people's lower vision of me, and I saw what happens when you do that. So the thing I learned from him is how like once you commit to the vision, you gotta commit to the higher you and not be bothered by, you know, these offers, because people are gonna come right now. If you say right now, I'm Seneca, I'm the pint size, you know, powerhouse. I do this, and I charge $10,000 to do public speakings, and I only do, you know, I do colleges, I do crowds of this, that, and I do this. The first thing that's gonna happen is somebody gonna come to you with $3,500.
Always.
And they gonna want like it's almost like a test, you know. So
and they gonna feel like they doing you a favor.
Oh, they always, you know, they come with $350 and they gonna feel like they're doing you a favor.
Oh yeah.
You know, but I learned a lot from him about, you know, I always say like he's like you know, it's a weird relation dynamic because we have so many shared friends and everything. And I've seen his explosion. And I've seen him do a lot of things that I didn't think were possible to work. Okay. But it's went from like a disdain to like a level of admiration, appreciation, and really just gratitude that I was even able to say like, hey man, I was able to learn on this close of a level, you know.
Absolutely. So shout out to Toby, Fat, and Ivory.
Yeah.
The newest addition.
Oh, hold on. You can't leave out Linnell.
Yeah, listen. Oh my God, I was looking at Linnell's page today. I was like, oh my God, she the real MVP. Listening to her music.
Linnell's great.
I mean, she's an amazing producer.
I learned a lot from her too. I went into depression after I had her on my podcast because she was just like such a beautiful soul. Yeah. And I learned about like not comparing myself to people because like when I saw her,
I'm still learning that lesson.
Yeah, like when I saw her energy and her creativity and just her joy as an artist, it was like everything I wished that I was, you know. And I became extremely sad for like a couple of weeks, you know. I had to like really come out of depression after talking to her because it was like Linnell Grant, like she has like when God made her, he was like, I want to create a pure artist who is just joy and beauty in the flesh, and he made her, and like and the crazy thing, I never heard her talk before. I was just friends with you know, Reeks because he was a tour DJ, right? So I just asked him, hey, I want to have Linnell on my podcast, and my producer was like, man, if you're gonna have someone on your podcast, maybe you should like do some research on her, because I was just used to joke with him. Oh, like,
absolutely, got to.
Yeah, and I used to, my joke with Reeks used to be like, man, does she ever talk? Because you know it would just be like I would just see, you know,
she
her
working, she busy, she just working.
But like I started researching, I saw women producers, I was like, man, this is dope.
She's
like,
fire.
Yeah,
she's fire. I love it.
Yep. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure. We done learned the pimping.
Yeah,
we learned that pimping ain't easy.
Yeah,
what else we learned today? Okay. These hoes ain't loyal. What else we learned? Okay, it's been good.
That's real, and I think what you're doing is really great, and fellow Sag, I didn't even realize,
Yes, I was like, that's why that energy. That's why we get along so well. That Sagittarius energy.
Yeah, so you down with the set, so
right.
So yeah, now I think look appreciate it, and I see great things for you.
Thank you. We appreciate you, Rob J. Next time on the Green Sofa, join us.